Aaron Tuttle here for Ferguson Roof Systems. For 43 years, Ferguson Roof Systems has been protecting Oklahoma's homes and businesses with quality roofing services. Their goal was to be the most honest and dependable roofing company in the state, all while providing free services such as lifetime labor warranty and annual inspections. Well, mission accomplished with thousands of client testimonials, an A+ Better Business Bureau rating, and a 5-star rating on Google. Look, the weather gives you enough to worry about, so why worry about who to trust with your roof? Call Ferguson Roof Systems today or find out more at fergusonroofsystems.com.
Hey everyone, Meteorologist Aaron Tuttle with you. It is about 12:20. I was going to go on the air about 30 minutes ago. And I had some technical difficulties. I ain't got no Wi-Fi. So my Cox cable internet's down, so I got to call Cox and hopefully they'll come out and survey the neighborhood, find the line issue, fix it. Of course, that always happens when we have tornadoes to talk about, right? So I'm so irritated. This is my irritated face. Can you tell? So I'm beaming off my T-Mobile hotspot. So hopefully everything goes well in this broadcast. And I may have to do that all week long because we'll see how it goes. This is the same song, billionth verse, never changes. So frustrating. Time to move, Aaron. Time to move. Okay, so all that negative news aside, positive news is you're here for a weather update. I'm going to give it to you. It'll be short and sweet, to the point. So thanks for following, liking, sharing this video. Glad for you to stop by with me here for your lunch break. We'll make this as quick as possible. We do have some good stuff to talk about if you want rain, and if, unfortunately, you want some storm activity. We're going to have a little bit of that as well. So on the Facebook, again, real quick, if you do not get my notifications, you can click that link I just posted in the comment section, and I will send you a direct DM, in other words, a direct message from me to you to let you know that I am live, that way you don't miss anything. Because as we know, sometimes these algorithms don't play nice, right? They don't give you what you really want. So, tell you what you want, what you really, really want, right? All right, first things first. It is nice out there. We've got partly cloudy skies, temperature of 65 degrees, my kind of weather. Looking good. Winds aren't all that strong just yet here in my backyard. A little shaded, of course, from the fences and the surrounding homes. So those winds will always be a little lighter here on this thermometer. The one on my roof will obviously read a little bit higher because it's unobstructed. But if we look across the state, we do have lots of 60s out there and some 70s across Oklahoma. So a little bit warmer in the south than it is into the, warmer to the north than it is into the south. And we're going to see some changes coming our way as we go through time. There was a lot of fog this morning down across southern Oklahoma, and hence that's why the temperatures are a little bit cooler down there as those kind of low cloudiness continues to kind of dissolve and mix out with the air. As winds down here are still pretty light. They're mostly under 10 miles per hour, whereas the winds up in northern Oklahoma are gusting up to around 20 to 25 to really even 30 when time you head out to northwest Oklahoma. So that's in advance of the next storm system approaching. Well, the storm system will be bringing some severe weather with it here across the southern plains. So basically a good chunk of Texas on into Oklahoma, slight risk north of there, and then the kind of just a general or generic thunderstorm risk after that. Here's a little close-up view of that graphic here for Thursday evening. And honestly, this right here is not a done deal. This is a very low probability event here for Thursday evening. There could be a couple of supercell storms out here producing some hail and wind, potential tornado, but it's very, very low risk. This cap is in place. All the moisture hasn't quite returned yet. What's probably more than likely going to happen is if we'll see anything, it's late, like after midnight. It's on the weaker side of things, and it kind of gets going Friday morning. But there's your timeline. You can see from 6 a.m. approaching in the Oklahoma City metro area from a new line of storms that will be developing overnight into early Friday morning. So main hazards, damaging winds, and yes, potential for some isolated tornadoes is in the forecast discussion. And then for the timing of storms, for Friday, pretty much is an off and on rain deal, scattered in nature, but the heaviest activity will start to move into eastern Oklahoma as we head into Friday evening and Friday night. So what does that mean for your plans for the weekend? Well, let's take a look here. Upper level storm system, let's get that out of the way here first. Big batch of energy coming in off New Mexico, hitting right here into the Texas Panhandle by Friday night, moving through Oklahoma on Saturday, taking the storms, everything with it. Keep in mind, when you're talking about this, and let me put this up here for you, when we're looking at this center of the upper level low, all the action is on the east of the axis. So in other words, as the energy and the lift and everything that creates the clouds, creates the showers and the storms, all that stuff is kind of in this fashion. So there's a line, right? I'm gonna draw crosshairs for you. And this is the upper level low that we're looking at. It has all the little colors surrounding it, right? So that's our energy source. There's the upper level low. So for the best lift that you want within this, it's kind of actually in two areas. So one is always going to be kind of in this northwestern quadrant, and you get residual down here in the southeastern quadrant. But as far as anything rain and everything and shutting down, dry southwest quadrant. And then if you get cold enough, you can sometimes get some wraparound snow up here in the northwestern quadrant. But for big upper level storm system, when it comes to severe weather, it's usually all out east of the track, so by several miles. So by Saturday, it's already pressed east of it. See these little areas of instability here that show up in these little colors, little blobs? That's on Saturday early morning. So it goes to show you how most of this by Saturday afternoon, or excuse me, by late Saturday morning into the noontime, a lot of this is now pushed in Arkansas, Missouri. The wraparound, those we talked about over here over northern and northeastern Oklahoma. So that's why we'll still have some clouds, a few showers wrap around the first part of our Saturday before this thing finally gets out here. Because for Saturday afternoon, it's gone. It's almost up here to Chicago, as a matter of fact. So it's a quick moving system. All right, now we look down below that level. We'll show you where the most lift is. If we head into Thursday afternoon, see these little colors here? This indicates moderate to weak lift. In other words, nothing very heavy. See these darker reds? That's heavy lift. And the lift is what you need to get the thunderstorms to go. So we head into Thursday. You can see there's just little pockets here and there. So I'm not really overexcited about Thursday's outcome. But if you look into Thursday night and Friday morning, more lift overcomes western half of Oklahoma into the panhandle. So that should really get things going for sure. So I'm looking more of a late Thursday night, Friday morning start to this event. And then during the day on Friday, that lift kind of hits and misses all across Oklahoma, down south into Texas. And then by the evening hours, it really cranks up. I mean, it goes off the scales here as we get a lot of thunderstorms indicated by the forecast model here across central and eastern Oklahoma, all the way down, yes, into Dallas, and southward from there on the I-35 corridor. So central Texas will be getting some thunderstorms, and yes, looks like a few tornadoes down there as well. I'm going to show you that here in 2 seconds. So here's also a look what's coming is a front, and I'll put this in motion for you right here. So this is 12 o'clock Friday, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4. And you can see how that front starts to move through the northwestern parts of the state, coming right into Oklahoma City metro. Again, late afternoon. So this will be the boundary to focus on for severe weather. Behind this, you don't get a whole lot of severe weather with it. It's either all going to be out ahead of it or along the front. As we talked about last night, if the front moves a little too fast, it'll undercut the storms and take away any potential tornado threat. Hey, good news, right? And that can happen and often does happen. Now, when we look at the instability in the atmosphere, the moisture that has returned to the Cape values. I'm just going to put it here through the Friday. So here's, for example, let me just back up. So here's Thursday. All right. Mediocre, man. 100, 200, 300 joules at most. Shear's pretty decent, but storms are going to have a tough time if they develop in this environment. They'll be very struggling to survive. But as we head into Friday afternoon, look how this brighter colors show up. Now we got Cape values up around 2,000 joules per kilogram. That's a lot of instability. So that's plenty. That's more than plenty for severe thunderstorms. And that's for Friday afternoon into the evening hours. And that extends all the way down here into Texas, for example. They're up around 2,500 joules here just west of Dallas-Fort Worth. And if you do look at that particular time down here and you look at the forecast sounding for Dallas, shear is very adequate. Possible hazard type is a tornado. And at that point, it's actually going for a significant tornado. In other words, greater than the strength of an EF2 potential. So we might have some decent tornadoes down there across North Texas and Central Texas with this event. Now you're saying, well, that's great, but what about here in Oklahoma, Aaron? Well, if we take a look here on this, let's just say the south side of Oklahoma City. So we'll go Blanchard, Noble, all that kind of area. Just because I have to stay south of where the model thinks the front is, right? So I'm just going to go with the frontal position. This could easily be to the north a little bit. But it also has a potential hazard type for us for a tornado on a little bit on the weaker side, EF1, EF2, most case, worst case scenario. But the shear is adequate. Everything else is good on the parameters for twisting supercell type storms embedded with kind of just a cluster of just blah. Now we do look at what we call the significant tornado parameter. In other words, where the models think the best ingredients are. Look how they kind of light up here across central Texas all the way. Of course, the cap will eventually kick in down here in the south, but from central to northern Texas, yes, looks like you got a pretty good window here of opportunity for Friday afternoon and early evening for some tornadoes. Some significant means EF2, by the way, so as in damage-wise. Significant, that's because EF0, EF1 is usually very minor damage. And that's the way you kind of look at it. So this is why it picks up from basically EF2 onward. But you can see it does kind of snake in here to southern Oklahoma. And the only reason it doesn't show here is this Canadian county. This is Oklahoma County cut in half. And as you can imagine, the reason why it's cut in half is because you've got that front moving through. So if the front, for whatever reason, we'll say was in this region, well then all this activity comes right back into here. And again, we're pretty far away still for these type of intricate details. But the front will be in the area, so we'll have to watch for that. All right, radar view. Let's take a look at that. So as we mentioned, hard to get things going here later Thursday afternoon and evening out in the Panhandle. So we'll jump into Friday morning. At daybreak, you can start to see some light showers bubbling up here in central Oklahoma, maybe some heavier thunderstorms up here northwest in the Panhandle. So that's when the energy really starts to kick out. Now, if you notice during the day on Friday, here's lunchtime. Here is basically where the frontal position is. We talked about this little blue line you see snaking across the map. And these are elevated storms behind the front. So no threat of any tornadoes there, but it could be a little bit of wind, a little bit of hail. But you do see by late afternoon, say 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, you start to see a lot of supercell type storms bubbling up down here across the I-35 corridor all the way down south of Dallas-Fort Worth. And again, those will be the ones potential tornadic, and that goes into the evening hours. And you see other thunderstorms developing out here across northeastern Oklahoma, whereas the meat and potatoes will be right here across the central part of the state. So football games and all that kind of stuff, 7 o'clock kickoff, unless this thing kicks out a little faster, unfortunately, just the wrong timing for that event for Friday evening activities, which is why probably a lot of games are being pushed to Thursday, from my understanding. Okay, so here is a look at Friday, close-up view. I'm going to show you from the morning hours into the afternoon. You can see how those thunderstorms bubble up here across the Oklahoma City metro area and points out to the east. And we'll stop the radar here because by the time we go into the extended period from this point forward, everything just starts to move east. Now, if you noticed, the good heavy stuff didn't really develop until it got to I-35 corridor. So what happens is when you blend the model data in together and you take that into account, and we talked about this last night, it keeps shoving the heavier rain into eastern Oklahoma, where they're going to get more and more training, which means overrunning of the same area, getting storm after storm after storm. So 2 to 3 inches widespread, as in a common widespread in this area. That's great for you guys, but hey, can you share the wealth? If you go to I-35 corridor, it's about an inch on average, an inch to 2 between us and Tulsa, and then back out to western Oklahoma. They're going, wait, don't forget about us. All we get a meager half inch. That's pathetic. Yeah, I know it is, isn't it? So eastern Oklahoma will be the winner for this. Now, all that said, this model will never be able to see the isolated amounts that will come in any particular heavy thunderstorm, which can dump easily 2 to 3 inches, especially if there's one on top of another. So there will be pockets in here in central Oklahoma where you're going to pick up 2 to 3, maybe even 4 inches of rain. And the same can be said here. There's going to be some isolated pockets where things get a little carried away. But that's kind of how things look as far as the outcome through Saturday morning. Okay, so remember, the rest of your weekend on Saturday and Sunday looks pretty good statewide. Other than lingering showers across the far east and southeast, anything wrap around across northeast Oklahoma. It won't amount to much. It'll be kind of a nuisance for you, at least for the first part of the day. Then the afternoon looks good. And Sunday looks great as well. We're back in the 70s by Sunday. So obviously a little cooler on Friday and Saturday, result of the clouds and the rainfall. And then next week looks good to start out with, Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday. And then we start to cool down again as another cold front work its way through. And you can see, of course, pretty chilly Saturday morning in the upper 30s. But if you look long range beyond that, time you hit to November 12th, you're back into the mid 30s as well. So we're going to have to start talking about the old freeze again here soon, as tis the season. Well, that is it for me. I try to make this as fast as possible because I got to get going as well. But I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. I'm going to try to do a live again tonight. If so, it'll be probably around 9:30. And then we'll see kind of how Thursday looks in the evening. 9:30 again or so will be the time I'll try to go live. And then on Friday, we'll just have to monitor it. If it looks like there's going to be some tornadoes, I'm going to try to cover those live for you. And it could be in the middle of the day. It could be lunchtime, and it could be throughout the mid-afternoon. It could be in the evening as well. So the window's pretty large for that. So just kind of keep an eye on things. But you can use my weather app, AT's Weather to Go. It'll track those tornadoes for you. It'll give you a heads-up alert well before a warning is even issued. You're like, what? And it's true. It is true. So in other words, you'll get a twisting storm alert before you get a tornado warning alert from the National Weather Service, because it predicts what's going to happen, and it can give you up to about, let's go with, I feel comfortable with about 15 minutes extra lead time. It can be even longer than that, but definitely for about 15 minutes in most cases, that's a lot of time to prepare for an approaching tornado. And that tells you based off your GPS location. So it's exact. In other words, it's not going to tell you that if you live like in northern Oklahoma County and the tornado's moving to southern Oklahoma County. You're not going to get that warning. But if you're in the immediate path, you're going to get the warning. You're going to get the heads up because it's very specific on your location. So make sure you take advantage of that. It is free. It's called AT's Weather to Go. It's on Apple and Google Play. All right, well, I'm out of here. We will talk again soon. You guys be good, and we'll talk later. Take care.